All right, I'd like to call this meeting of North Kansas City Planning Commission to order. The first item of business is to approve the agenda.
Move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Second.
Oh, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, agenda approved. The next item of business is the approval of the minutes from the May 5th, 2022 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second. I had to let them get in the books.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion approved. Next, we have comments from the public. Are there any comments from the public this evening? All right. Our next item is PC 2022-0701, the zoning text amendment for parking lots. The first item is the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. This item in front of you, actually, we have discussed it in depth in our May meeting. It is about the parking lot's dimensions. The reason you're seeing it again on this agenda item is because we dated wrong when we went to the publish it on the Kansas City Star. So we got kicked back by our lawyer, and we're going to go through this process again. Nothing has changed from what we proposed and you have approved before.
The pesky legal counsel.
Yes, our counselor.
So we just need to recommend to approve as presented by staff.
Well, first,
Are there any questions for
there we
staff?
go.
We probably answered all those last time. We open this to a public hearing on PC 2022-0701. If anybody wishes to speak, please approach the microphone. All right, looks like there are no public comments. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we are closing the public hearing. The next is the recommendation options. How would we like to make a recommendation on this item?
So the same way we did before, right? Recommend approval of the proposed amendments as presented by staff.
Excellent. Is there a motion on PC 2022-0701 to recommend this as presented by staff?
So moved.
In a second.
All right, we need a roll call on this one.
Commissioner Steele,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrone,
Yes.
Mayor DeLong.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Excellent. The next item of business is PC 2022-0702, zoning text amendment for specific use standards. First up is the staff report.
Good evening again. The staff report, you can find it in your package. We do have the hard copies. We handed to you earlier in this meeting. On the staff report, it described what about this zoning text amendment is about. It is about section 17.12.040 for the specific use standards. What staff proposed is to add a temporary off-site construction yards and offices to be approved by City Council through the short-term conditional use permit process. Staff has been seeing an increased issue related to construction site. We all know about Oxbow, which is the 18th and Swift, and the 23rd and Swift. They're all under construction at this moment. It has been for a few years for 18th and Swift and causing a lot of parking issues, and the contractors parking on public right-of-way, and there's also issues that were upcoming that staff is addressing for 23rd and Swift. So what we're proposing here is to give the construction crew an opportunity to send their petition to City Council to decide if a temporary off-site construction site for storage, for offices, and for their staff would be allowed. As you can see, staff proposed to add item D under the E, short-term conditional uses, one types that staff has specified that the temporary off-site construction yards and offices such as storage yards for construction supplies, materials, or equipment for temporary use during the construction project, site of temporary construction yards and offices shall be restored to its original vegetative and topographic condition within the period determined by the director. So we do require them to restore the condition of the site back to the original situation after it's being used and the use is being terminated.
Are there
And
any-
with that, I'm open to questions.
I couldn't help but point. This is weird.
Yeah. Couple things. So how do you see this working in practice? Like, we'll use 23rd and Swift as an example. If they want to use an off-site storage area. Now, currently, they would have to go south of 14th, which is that's pretty useless for them. Would they need to identify a vacant parcel, work with the private owner of that parcel, and then come to the city council and petition for a conditional use? Is that how it would
That's
function?
correct. They
Okay.
will have to get the consent from the private property owner. Usually, in this case, which staff has been known as, they're looking at the parking lot behind the dental office across the street. So, yeah, they could contact or being contacted by any private property owners, and which will be an off-site, but will make sense for the trucking and the construction trailers to maneuver in without creating a lot of public traffic and issues in the congestion. So staff will review the facts and write a report, just like what we typically do for those short-term conditional use permit, and we'll send it to city council, and you can discuss and you can ask questions, and the city council will make the final decision on this particular matter.
Okay, and would that require a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Just like all the other, it typically would be placed on the consent agenda, but, it can be pulled off of the consent agenda.
Okay, yeah, because usually those are done through consent. I'm using 23rd and Swift because it's the most obvious example right now. If they were to use the piece across 23rd Avenue right there and try to move back and forth, I could see that jamming up traffic if they were moving a lot of stuff back and forth. The other part is if we approve so they work out a deal with the private owner, would we be on the hook for any sort of liability or insurance around that, or would be, we just say you can do it, and then they work out all the insurance and particulars with the owner of the land?
That's correct.
Okay, so we would have no liability in this, other than just.
We should not have any liability. Just
Okay.
like when you approved a Snake Saturday,
Yeah.
through a short-term conditional use permit, we should not have any liability.
Okay.
But we do consider how the traffic will be impacted, how the maneuvering and the storage on the site will impact the neighborhood
Right.
and the surrounding properties. That's what I believe the city council would always consider.
Okay, and then last piece is, say they're crossing streets, or like, I'm imagining it's gonna be fairly rare that there's a lot right next to the build site. This is pretty useful for them. But if they're maneuvering down city streets from one off-site to the other, we said it's okay, and something happens in transit, is there, again, any liability on us for saying, you can use that site, or would that be just,
You can add conditions.
okay?
And typically, I would anticipate there will be conditions regarding to the operation characteristics, hours, noise, and how much they can do, how much loads, and all that detail, and you can discuss and come up with conditions. And you can also specify the liability part to put the burden on the applicant, not on the city. That's
Perfect.
what I would recommend you to consider.
Thank you.
And- Thank you. I think you just touched on what I was actually going to ask. So council, staff can recommend additional conditions, and then council can add additional conditions when we go to approve it. Okay,
In general, staff will have an internal review with the fire department and public works director, just make sure there's no life safety issue. And they will put their comments in as well. And typically, we will incorporate that into our staff memo. And when we send that to you, you can add extra conditions. And you have the authority to remove any of those as well.
perfect, and we could remove that. How long do these last? Another short term, is it how long they've applied for it, or is there a?
So we do not typically have a set number of days or years, and that could be, I would recommend you to consider that, and then typically we'll put that in the memo as well. We will recommend a period of time for you to consider, and that can be down through a condition, such as a language like this, that this short-term conditional use permit is only valid for 2 years, and when it's terminated, you have 60 days to restore the site to its original vegetation and topographic condition,
All right, thank you.
things like that.
Thank you.
Oh, one more on that. The vegetative piece, say they gotta knock some trees down. I'm sure, because this is up to your discretion written in here, like, we're not gonna require them to plant a 40-year-old tree if they had to take that out. So is it gonna be something close to the vegetative? Okay, gives discretion.
I hope they don't knock any trees down.
You never know.
But if that does happen,
Yeah.
yes, they'll have to replace it to its original condition. It doesn't mean it has to be a 40-year tree, but close enough would make sense, though.
The only question that I had was, and I think you've addressed it, was whether there would be restrictions on the types of construction yards or offices that could be built in potentially residential areas. So things that, if they're storing a lot of expensive equipment, they might want bright lighting at night, and those things seem like they could be addressed via conditions. So as long as there's a catch for that.
You're right. We should ask for if they will provide a site plan to us, and on the site plan, we should be able to identify the detailed uses, and if we do believe, and I believe I have the authority to ask for any supplemental documentation if necessary, that if we do believe a lighting or photometric plan is necessary, we would ask them for that, and sometime they would come up with fencing and other screening materials. We just want to make sure everything, what will impact the neighborhood will be minimized.
Yeah, so my question, my first question is in regard to restoring to the original vegetative state and topographic condition. Would that also cover things like environmental remediation, construction sites, their spills or leftover materials?
That's correct.
Okay, it does cover that.
That's correct.
Okay. And then,
That's my anticipation.
sure.
Like if you contaminate the site, obviously you dump something you're not supposed to, yes, you're on hook for that liability.
Yeah. And my other questions were related to what Mayor DeLong was asking about around the time frame. How temporary are we talking, post-use? Is there room for us to include some of those conditions in this language, or is there a reason why we haven't added
We
those
did
in here?
not include that language in this particular item over here. First is because it is talking about the types over here. As you can see, that subtitle is about the types.
I see.
It's not really about the detail. And second, it depends on the scale of the construction. Some construction site, they might need 2 years for like 23rd and Swift. If they were to have a temporary offsite construction yard, they probably will need 1 or 2 years. In some site, when it's smaller, let's say it's just an acre for a multifamily, it's probably more likely to be 6 months or within a year. So we do not want to restrict it right over here and to give any burden or pressure on either the city council or staff. We would like it to leave it open for the city council to make the decision after they hearing the petition from the applicants, if it's reasonable.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Mayor DeLong?
There are a lot of questions.
My mic's off. There we go. So if there were to be problems, it's revocable, so I don't know. On time limit,
You can add it to the
Could that-
condition.
You can make that revocable.
Yeah.
Could that be something staff could do, or would that have to go back to city council to revoke a short-term condition?
I would recommend a general language to cover the base, to give staff the authority. Once when it's revoked, staff can issue a stop work order immediately. And when I mean staff, I mean my code compliance manager in my department. So maybe you can add a language like if any misconduct or any operation has been against these conditions and the city code or rules or applicable rules, then the short-term conditional use permit shall be revoked, and the city has the authority to issue stop work order immediately.
Okay. Perfect, thank you. No, overall, I support this. I feel pretty comfortable with this. I think we're going to have a lot more
Right.
construction happen in town, and it's a lot of tight spaces.
I
so.
anticipate the first staff report to be drafted through my department, working as a result after working closely with our city councilor, our lawyer, and so we make sure we got our base covered. And maybe that's a good start. And being new for this part, for being new in our city code, I think it will definitely be a good exercise. But we want to create this opportunity for this particular petition and for city council to be able to consider it.
Yeah, no, and I also feel good that it appears there's a lot of ways council can add stuff. It could be revoked, so we're not actually disturbing the neighboring and the neighborhoods or neighboring properties. So thank you.
No further questions from the council or from the commission, so I open the public hearing on PC 2022-0702. If anyone wishes to speak, please approach the microphone. Seeing no takers, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Move to close.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, next is the commission action on this item. Is there a motion related to PC 2022-0702?
Move to recommend approval of the proposed amendments as presented by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we need a roll call.
Commissioner Steele,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner McGrone,
Yes.
Mayor DeLong.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Next item, PC 2022-073. It's the Genesis final plat. First up is the staff report.
This item in front of you is a final plat process, and final plats needs to go to Planning Commission for initial review, and you will make a recommendation to City Council. And after you make the recommendation, the City Council will review this final plat and have the final say on it. So this final plat, as you can see, it is a plat that's located in a One North development area. It's generally located on the east side of the Diamond Parkway, south side of Missouri Highway 210, which is also Armour Road. And this site includes 4 pieces of the parcels, as you can see. So currently, there is a discussion with the master developer that a health club might be developed at this site. The site currently is on the C3, which stands for general businesses. The proposed use is in line with our city code and the ordinances. But keep in mind, when you do review final plats, you only review the criterias against the plats, and in general, it's the land. Do you have the access? Do you have utilities? Does this lot consolidation will create any nonconformity in the platting itself? So from staff's review, we believe this lot consolidation, which is to create a lot of a total of 6.844 acres, would not create any nonconformity against the city code. Therefore, we recommend you to approve it. If you have questions, I'm here.
Are there any questions for staff?
Does this replatting involve any additional or fewer ingress egress points than we would expect?
Currently, there is no full access for the site yet. It is just 4 platted, originally platted parcels. These 4 parcels, as you can see, some of those are in weird shapes.
Sure.
Once when you consolidate it, and this platting is the primary to consolidate these 4 parcels into one. In theory, this one big lot should have more street frontage than those individual 4 lots. My anticipation is they should have a better way to create the access according to their site plan, which we have not seen it yet.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? All right. Is there a motion on case PC 2022-0703?
Move to approve the plat.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, the motion passes. Next item is PC 2022-0704, the One North Grocery final plat. First item is the staff report.
Right, this final plat is related to another development nearby. It is actually on the east side of A-Loft, which is right across the plat that you were seeing earlier. The last item we discussed is located on the west side of A-Loft. So this plat is the opposite of what they wanted to do for the Genesis 60. They wanted to subdivide this one lot into two. And the purpose for that is to create one lot for the potential grocery store to come in the future and another lot for a potential restaurant. So the proposed lots will have, let me see, excuse me. The existing lot have about 5.744 acres, and after it's been divided up, the potential lot 1 will have 3.599 acres, which is for the future grocery store, and the lot 2 will have 2.145 acres for the future restaurant. There is a zigzag-shaped lot line being created in the middle, and in the staff report, the staff has illustrated why it is being platted this way instead of a straight line. First, we do have a sanitary sewer easement across the site, which make the future grocery store design a little bit difficult. And the second is because the developer has already laid out a site plan, and in fact, we already have the site plan being approved, and we have the building permit being submitted. So the potential lot line for the future grocery store, which is in line with the future parking lot. So therefore, you see the lot line wiggle wag a little bit. Other than that, these two lots do comply with the city codes, and I'm here for questions.
Are there any questions? All right, do we have a motion on case PC 2022-074?
Move to approve the plat.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. The next item, comments from staff. Are there any comments from staff tonight?
We really appreciate your time tonight. Without you, we won't be able to have this meeting. So I just want to say thank you to every one of you. Thank you for your time.
Are there any comments from commissioners? Mayor DeLong?
I got a lot. No, I'm just kidding. Just one. Thank you for chairing this evening, and you did a fantastic job. That's my comment.
Thank you. I was only a little nervous.
Seconded.
Yeah. Great job.
Excellent. All right, is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, everybody want to adjourn?
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
All right, meeting's adjourned.
Ooh.
Thank you, everyone.
That could have been a close one. What if we go 2-2 on that? Adjournment? What if we went 2-2 on adjournment? We got to call Tom Barcy in. I know. You know, I just had to talk to make sure Mike wasn't right on 20 minutes.